Hi everyone, welcome to Learning Impact. In today's lecture, we will discuss social stratification. We will discuss its major theories, which include the structure functionalist perspective, in which there is a Davis and More thesis, and there is a complex perspective, in which we will discuss the Karl Marx, Max Weber, and the Mosca argument, and then the Lenski Synthesis and Symbolic Interactionist perspective. These all are the theories of the social stratification, which we will discuss in this lecture. So let's start. Okay, first is the definition of social stratification. That what does it mean by social stratification? We have discussed it in previous lecture. Here we will just define it. First, the social stratification is the hierarchical arrangement of large social groups based on their control over basic resources, including patterns of structural inequality as well as supporting ideology. Means the social stratification means that when we categorize people of a large social group, or we can say a society, based on their control over basic resources, that how much even or uneven distribution of resources are among the masses of society, on the basis of which we categorize people into different strata. It also includes the patterns of the structural inequality. It means that social stratification is not something cultural, social, but it also have a root in a structure, because it is the society structure which actually support this stratification. For example, in the form of the caste system, in the form of the class system, these all are rooted in our social structure. And also they have the supporting ideologies. They have kind of perspective that either this inequality or this stratification, or we can say arrangement of people into different hierarchies, either it is acceptable, morally justified or not. There is also a kind of ideologies that exist in each society according to their own social stratification. So we can see that it is the arrangement of people of society based on their control over the basic resources, which has support of the structure, social structure, and also they have a kind of supporting ideologies. This is a social stratification. Social stratification is based on scarcity. It is according to the Oswald Spengler, which according to his view, that stratification emerges when there is scarcity, means that when there are limited resources for which people they fight, they compete with each other, and in that way it leads to those section of people who have more access to resources, they are placed in upper stratum, and those who have the less control over the basic resources, it leads to the placement of these people into lower stratum. And the second is that Kingsley Davis, who is considered a functionalist, he emphasized the functional necessity of stratification. Means that social stratification is not something always be negative. It is something necessary for our society. How it is necessary for a society, or what is the positive aspect of social stratification, we will discuss it in the structure functionalist point of view. Okay, so now there are theories of the social stratification. There are three basic perspectives in a social stratification, that is the structural functionalist, the conflict perspective, and the symbolic interactionism. We will discuss each of these perspectives one by one. First is the structural functionalist perspective. According to a structural functionalist point of view, this theory holds that stratification is a way to reward people who contribute most to society well-being. Means that stratification helps us to identify those people who have contributed more to our society, so that we will give them more rewards as a result of their contributions, as a compensation to their role they have played in society. So those people who have more contribution in society, they are rewarded more as compared to the other who have the less contribution in society. And for this, to identify people or to drop more talented people from the ordinary work, we must have a kind of system which will place these individuals into different hierarchies. And this system is called stratification. It means that structural functionalists believe that stratification is something necessary. It is something important, or something the need of our society, that we have to place individuals into different strata, depend on how much they have contributed to our society. And on the basis of their contribution, we will give them rewards. Rewards are in the form of the pay. It means that those who have more contribution in our society, we will give them we will give them high pays as compared to others who had the less contribution. So this is how the structural functionalists they view the social stratification in society. So according to the structural functionalist point of view, there are two types of works in society. First is that those jobs which is more important, and the second are the common jobs. The most important jobs are those which are mostly difficult or which demand the talented people with expensive and extensive training. For example, if we take the job of designing new generations of computers or transplanting the human organs, such kind of jobs require those people who had kind of extensive training, because transplanting organ is not something ordinary work. It include the risk. That's why we need more talented and trained people for this. And second type of jobs which functionists believe are the common jobs. These are the jobs which are fairly easy and they can perform by almost anyone. For example, washing windows or answering a telephone. So we have a society in which we have the important jobs and the common jobs. And a society actually needs, if society has to run smoothly, so there is a need that we have to fill all the positions of the job, either it's important or common job. For this, there must have some kind of inequality in a distribution of rewards, which is necessary and which is morally justified and beneficial to all members of society, because this unequal distribution of rewards will actually motivate people to work and to pass to the trainings, and they will then try to fill the position which are more important in society. So if we give equal rewards to each and every individual, either regardless of their work in society, it will actually it will lead to the less motivation for those who have more training or who work hard for the high position in society. So according to a functionalist view, this unequal distribution of rewards is necessary to motivate people, and it also provides them a kind of incentive to work hard and to have access to the high positions in society, which are in the form of the important jobs. And these important jobs will actually motivate them. This distribution of rewards will motivate these people to perform most important roles, and in that way the society will be able to draw the talented people from the least important jobs, and the society will be able to run smoothly, because if we place the talented people on their right place and we give position of common jobs to the ordinary people, so society will run smoothly. And this is a kind of the stratification which is beneficial to whole society, which is beneficial to society as a whole. It's not some functionalists, they do not view distribution of rewards as something unequal. They do not view stratification a kind of system which based on inequality. They believe that it is a system which is the need of society, and it is something beneficial to all members of society, because it helps us to identify those people who are more talented, who will help us to occupy the high positions in society, and there are other people who have the less talent, so they will go for the ordinary jobs, and in that way the society will run smoothly. So what the functionalists believe, that those who are in a high stratum, the upper stratum of our society, who are occupying the higher positions, it is something that they have a kind of superior traits in these people. It is not some because of inequality, but it is because of their talent, their personal experience, their personal talent, which actually enable them to fill these positions. So we need this stratification system in order to make society run smoothly. Okay, the structural functionalist perspective is supported by the Davis and Morey thesis. Kingsley Davis and Wilbert Morey, they were two sociologists who are known as the functionalists because they actually support this perspective, and they give their thesis in this favor, and they believe that social stratification has beneficial consequences for the operation of society. They have also views that resemble to the functionalism, that this social stratification, which is something beneficial, it is not something harmful for our society. It will help us to run society smoothly. It will help us to have the progressive society. If we place ordinary people on a high positions, it will cause disturbance in our society. So social stratification will help us. It will guide us. It is a kind of way to guide us that which people have to place in which stratum, in which position. So according to Davis and Mori thesis, society must make certain that its positions are filled. Means that their most important jobs are filled, their least important jobs are filled, because every job is important, but every job has a contribution to society, but the important jobs are those which has a more contribution to society. Society must make certain that its positions are filled, and for this what will they do? That there are some positions that are more important than others, as we discussed, that there are more important jobs in the form of the designing new generations of computer, or for example, if we take the job of the heart surgeon, the doctors, and there are other which is considered the common ordinary jobs which can be performed by anyone, like washing windows or the unskilled jobs. So the more important positions must be filled by the more qualified people. It means that the society run on a system of merit, that those people who are high, who have the more qualification, they will occupy those positions which has more importance in our society, which has more contribution in our society. And to motivate the more qualified people to fill these positions, society must offer them greater rewards. So it will then help them to occupy that positions by more and more qualification. So Davis and Mori explained that greater the functional importance of a position, the more rewards the society will attach to it. And for this, more rewards the society will attach to it. And for this, we have to motivate people by giving them more and more rewards, so that they will try for a job which has the more functional importance. Okay, then examples of the functionalist view. For example, if we take the important, that how the important and the other jobs exist in our society and how they are different from each other. For example, the college president job is considered more important than that of student union, because president decision affect a large number of people, including the students. So if the college president is rewarded more as compared to the student union, then it's not a kind of inequality according to functionalist point of view, because if a college president is rewarded more in a form of pay, it is because that he is doing a job which has more contribution, which is more effective, which is more important in our society. So it is not something a kind of inequality, but it is a system which we need to run society. And the second thing is the heart surgeon job is more important than a garbage collector. For example, if the heart surgeon, which is considered a more important job in society, if he is rewarded more in a form of pay as compared to a garbage collector, or we can say that heart surgeon is placed in an upper stratum and the garbage collector in the lower stratum, so it is not something a kind of inequality, but it is because that they had different contribution in our society. This is how the functionalists view social stratification. So we can say that the basic, if you conclude the functionalist point of view, so it means that those people who contribute more to society, they are paid more. When they are paid more, means that they are rewarded more, while those who contribute less, they are paid less. It is the conclusion that how the functionalists they view the stratification. So it means that stratification, according to a functionalist, stratification is not something evil. It is not something that is negative, but it is something which is necessary, which is need of our society, which act as a guiding system for us to identify that those people who are talented, we have to place them in a higher position, the most important positions, and those who have less contribution to society have to be placed in other jobs. So this is the kind of system which help us, which help our society to run smoothly. This is how the functionalists view. Now we will discuss criticisms to the functionalist point of view. Okay, what is the criticism which was drawn by the other sociologists to Davis and Mori thesis? The first thing is that the first sociologist to actually identify the major flaws in a functionalist view was the Melvin Tillman in 1953. And the Melvin actually identified that how do we know that high rewarding positions are more important? How do we assess this? Is there any objective criteria to understand that which job is more important than other? For example, if we take the example of the example as we just discussed, that a heart surgeon job is more important than a garbage collector. How do we come to know about this? It might be that is something our own assumption about it. Like for example, if we consider that a heart surgeon job is more important than the garbage collector, and if we take the garbage collector job, if he doesn't perform his job well, what will happen as a result? There will be epidemic, there will be the disease outbreak, and as a result, more people will get sick and even die. So how can we say that a garbage collector job is least important as compared to the heart surgeon job? They both have equal contribution to our society. There is no objective criteria to calculate that how much that job contribute to our society and how much this job contribute to our society. We can't calculate this contribution on a basis of any objective criteria because we don't have any objective scale for this. So how do we know that a high rewarding jobs or positions are more important? For example, if a horizontal job is rewarded more, then how do we know that it is more important? Because the garbage collector, if he doesn't perform his job well, it will also disturb our society. So it is a major criticism which was brought to the Davis and Morey thesis. And the second thing, that people positions are based on many factors other than merit, because as when we study the functionalist view, it was that those people who are more qualified, so they were placed in a they were hired for the positions which are considered more important. But those who criticize it, critics say that there are also other factors. It is not only the merit on which the society runs. There are also other factors which contribute to this inequality, this stratification. It is, for example, if we take the inherent system of stratification, that those who are born in upper stratum, who are born in a wealthy family, their ancestors, they pass their status to their children, and this leads to their coming generation to have more access to resources as compared to other who are born in a lower stratum, who have the little wealth, or who have the little control over the resources. So it means that society, there is no level playing field in society. So how can we then assume that those who are in a higher position, they are more talented as compared to those who are in the lower stratum? Because it might be that it is their family background which helped them to reach to that stratum. So we can say that social people positions are not solely based on a merit, which functionalists say, but there are also many other factors behind this. It could be the family background, it could be the caste in which they are born, it could be the other stratification which affect them. For example, the gender stratification. If an individual who is born a woman in a conservative society, they will have less access to resources. So in that way, we can say that there are many other factors that underlie the stratification. It is not only the merit, which the functionalists say that is the only reason that people, they are hired for the most important jobs. And third, that how social stratification can be considered functional as it is dysfunctional for many. How can we say that social stratification is functional for society as a whole? Because social stratification can lead to the inequality. It can lead to the inequality for other section of society. For example, if we take the stratification which is on the basis of gender, so women, they have less access to resources as compared to the other section of society. So this social stratification is dysfunctional for one gender but functional for another. Similarly, if we take the class social stratification, those who are born in a lower stratum, they have little access to resources. So social stratification, it proved dysfunctional for those who have the low income, who are from the low income families, and it become functional for the high income families. It means that social stratification can prove functional at one hand and also dysfunctional for at another hand for the other section of people. So it means that the functionalists, which they assume that social stratification is something necessary for society, something a need, or just something based on merit, there is no kind of inequality that exists. The critics say that it is kind of overgeneralization, like there are some high rewarding positions, but how do we assess these positions? There is no calculation, no way to calculate their contribution. There is no way to consider a particular job important and the other jobs least important. So there are many ways in which the critics, they have criticized the Davis and Morey thesis. Okay, then the second perspective is the social conflict view. It believes that social stratification benefits some people and it disadvantages others. Means that it is contrast to the functionalists. Functionalists believe that social stratification is something beneficial for society as a whole, but social conflict believe that it benefits some people, but it disadvantages others also, and it leads to the conflict. It leads to the struggle between have and have not in a society. Okay, so social conflict view, we will discuss three major arguments regarding this view. That is the Mosca argument, Karl Marx argument, and Max Weber argument. First is the Mosca argument. Okay, Mosca argument was given in his book, which was titled as The Ruling Class. And this argument believe on the power dynamics. Mosca argument believed that every society will be stratified by power due to some facts of life. Means that stratification is something inevitable. It's something necessary for our society because we need power dynamics in our society. We need to organize our society, and to organize our society, we need political institution. For example, what the Mosca argument say that no society can exist unless it is organized. And how will society get organized? There must have a kind of a leadership concept. This requires leadership of some sort in order to coordinate people's action. Like there will be a leader who will organize people, and the other people, they will follow the leader. So when there will be a concept of leadership, the society will get organized. And what Mosca argument further say that this kind of coordination or organization of society needs political organization. Leadership or political organization requires inequality of power. By definition, some people will take leadership roles while others will follow. Means that to organize our society, we need power dynamics. And in order to run power dynamics, we must have political organization. And political organization based on inequality of power means that when we have political organization, the power cannot be evenly distributed among individuals. It must be uneven. There must be uneven distribution of power. Some people will become leader and other will become follower. It cannot be possible that all people become leaders and whole society become follower. So there must be a kind of inequality of power, and this inequality of power is something necessary for our society because it will help us to organize. And further say that those who take the leadership roles, just because that human nature is self-centered, so those who are in power, what will they do? That they will use their position to seize greater rewards for themselves. And in that way, there will be a concept of inequality emerge. That those who have power, they will use their position to seize greater rewards for themselves, and they will try to oppress those people who are beneath them, who are in below strata. So in that way, it will lead to a conflict in society. So it is this social stratification is not something which can be avoided because it is something necessary, because we need power dynamics in our society, we need political institution, we need a kind of society to be organized. But for that we need the leadership roles and the followers, and for that the human nature, as it is self-centered, so those who take the leadership roles, they will try to have more and more control over the resources, and in that way it will lead to the exploitation of the other population of society. So this is how the Mosca argument view the social stratification, that social stratification is something necessary, but it is always rooted in inequality, in one class which take over the resources, which has more access to resources or who control the resources, and the other people who actually have the less access to resources and they blindly follow the leaders. So, and they are exploited. So this is how the Mosca, they view the social stratification through the lens of the conflict perspective. Then the second is the Karl Marx argument. Karl Marx say that there must be a society which should be from each according to his ability to each according to his need. Means that social stratification is something unavoidable, but we must create a society in which people, they perform according to their ability, according to their talent, but they receive rewards according to their need. It means that what functionalists say that performance and rewards are something correlatory, means that those who perform well in a society, who contribute well in our society, they are getting more and more reward as a compensation for their performance. Karl Marx actually separate these two, that performance and reward are not something correlatory. If individual they perform well, it is because that they have ability, but they have to receive according to their needs, and in that way it will lead to the even distribution of resources among the individuals, among the masses of society. Now, the Karl Marx further say that people in power are not there because of the superior trait, but use it as ideology to justify inequality. Meaning that those who are in power, it is not because of their talent, which functionalists say that it is because of their talent. But Karl Marx, as a conflict from the perspective of conflict, say that it's not something unique in their ability, or something in their unique in their IQ, but they make others who get exploited, they make others to believe that they have superior trait. They make them believe that they have superior trade, that's why they have occupied this position, and they use it as ideology to justify inequality. Means that it is not something which is something because of the individual differences, just something because of the IQ differences or something because of the talent, but they use such kind of statement because they use such kind of ideologies to make us believe that they have superior traits, and in that way they use it as a ideology to justify this inequality in a form of stratification. And second, that all of human history is an account of small group of people in power using society resources to benefit themselves and oppress those who beneath them. Means that when we look at human history, there are small groups of people who have power, who have access to resources, who benefit themselves, and there are the large group of people who get oppressed because of this uneven distribution of resources. So it is not something unique. We have witnessed in history and we are still experiencing it under the capitalism, according to Karl Marx. There is have and have not class, in which have class has the resources, has the access to resources, and have not class have no other option but to sell their labor. This is what Karl Marx say about the stratification, that we need a stratification in which individuals, they perform according to their ability, but they receive according to their needs, and it is the basic principle of communist society. So this is how the Karl Marx gave argument about the social stratification from the lens of conflict view. Then the Max Weber argument. Max Weber said that social stratification involves three distinct dimensions of inequality, that is class, power, and prestige. Karl Marx's argument was too simplistic. It was only discussing the dimension of inequality that was based on class, that was based on the economic structure. But the Max Weber argument is more complicated, which gave us three distinct dimensions of inequality, that is class, power, and prestige. And Max Weber believed that class is something that there are, on the basis of level of wealth, there are three classes, that are upper class, middle, and working class. Upper class are those who don't work, but they just do their investment. They have a plenty of wealth and they do their investment to enhance it. Middle class are those who are professional workers, and working class are those who are unskilled workers. This is how the Max Weber viewed three classes in our a kind of stratification of our society on the basis of wealth. Then on the basis of power, he say that power, we can study the power dynamics in a bureaucracy, because bureaucracy give an example in which there is a deeply rooted power structure which able to carry out one goals despite the opposition of others. Power can be defined that individual is able to carry out their goals despite the opposition. It means they have power. So the positions of power, they are more obvious in a system of bureaucracy. And third, he gave that a high social status entitled to differential and respectful treatment. If an individual have a high social status in a society, it will entitle them to the respectful treatment. This respectful treatment, which he called prestige. Respect, honor, which we call prestige. So the high social status might not be necessary because of the wealth. It might be because of any other reason, like the leadership skill, or because that individual is able to have the polished speaking skills. Or an individual who is more religious, and society prefers such people. Remember that this class, power, and prestige, although these three are the basic dimensions of inequality which Max Weber say, but these three, they are subjective from society to society, depend on how the people they judge others. If a society give more value to the religious people rather than the the self-made people, so they will give more importance to prestige rather than class. But Max Weber discussed these three dimensions, that these three are the basic reasons behind inequality, that class, power, and prestige, and there are social stratification system based on these three factors. Okay, then what are the criticism to a conflict perspective? Conflict perspectives say, according to critics, that conflict perspective, they play down the valuable services that elite classes perform, such as maintaining social control, organizing the society. It means that it is opposite to the functionalists. Functionalists were criticized for a reason that they have actually exaggerated the contribution which made by the elite class. the critics of the conflict perspective say that they actually play down their services, they actually play down their contribution which elite class perform, like they perform a huge contribution to our society, that is maintaining social control, organizing the resources, and it is not something beneficial only for the elite class, but it benefits society as a whole. So the critics say that they actually does not describe their services as they deserve. And the second criticism is that to organize a complex society without rewards is unequal as those that exist in a real stratified society is something unrealistic view of human nature. This is a view which was given by the conflict perspective, that we have to organize a complex society without rewards as unequal as those that exist in a real stratified, means that the rewards should be distributed, but it should not be distributed to an extent as unequal as it exists in a real stratified. According to critics, it is a kind of unrealistic view, because in order to organize a complex society where there are different types of social stratification on the basis of different bases, we need the distribution of rewards as unequal, because it will help the others to motivate and to have incentive to work hard for the higher rewards. So if we tend to organize a society by without rewards is unequal, it is just a kind of utopian society. It will be a kind of hypothetical or ideological. It is not something practical. It is against the ground reality. Okay, then the other criticism which was brought to the conflict perspective, that the conflict theories, they are ideologue themselves, means that they have a kind of predetermined beliefs about the conflict on society, and they use their conflicts to analyze societies. They have already in their mind that there is a conflict in society, and then they tend to view society from that perspective, which they have already is in the form of the preconceived notion. So it means that their analyses are biased. They give overemphasis to conflict. There are also the other examples in the form of the harmony, in the form of consensus and stability in our society, but they actually did not give more importance to that. And also that the conflict perspective, they are more associated with the Marxist ideology, so they are more political rather than to think about the social phenomena objectively. They have more political vibes in their thesis, and then it served to advance a particular ideological perspective rather than providing an objective analysis of a social phenomena. And then the other criticism which was brought to the conflict perspective, that they use the value-laden terms like exploitation, which does not adequately characterize relationship between capitalist and worker. Value-laden terms means that they have their own biases when they describe exploitation, because they give a kind of simplistic view of relationship, that they give a kind of one-dimensional relationship between a master and slave, between the capitalist and worker. There are also the other dimension of the capitalism in which both classes get benefit. There are examples of the mutual benefits that exist in a capitalism, such as like job creation, innovation, and economic growth, which benefit both us and society as a whole. They do not consider such examples when they describe exploitation of society. And also that they overgeneralize about the capitalist and worker relationship. This overgeneralization actually neglects that workers have also the positive experiences when they work under the capitalism, like in the form of the fair wages, in the form of the legal protection, and also that they ignore the worker agency, that if workers get exploited, they are not a kind of passive victim. They have a kind of agency, they have a kind of ability to negotiate better condition, to do organization, or to to do strikes, to protest against it. So they are not a kind of passive victims. So they do not just consider these facts also. So these are the major criticism which has brought to the conflict perspective by the other sociologists. Okay, then the Lenski Synthesis. According to Lenski Synthesis, it is a kind of intermediate the combination of both functionalism and the conflict perspective. And Lenski say that when we analyze the functionalism and conflict perspective, we understand that the surplus is the key. Means that in a society where there was no concept of surplus, functionalist view is applicable. Because in that society, like the hunting and gathering society, those who perform well in battles, in wars, they will award it in the form of surplus, in the form of extra meal which they have collected. They were awarded these people, because at that time there was no concept of accumulating more and more wealth, so they give it as a reward. So there was no concept of conflict at that time, because as although the individual who performed well, they were rewarded more, but as other people, they do not have such kind of concept in their mind that we have to accumulate well, because they were free from such kind of thoughts. So in that way, it was applicable to consider the functionalist view. But in the society where every individual is trying to have more and more accumulation of wealth, like it is today, like a capitalism, then the conflict theory holds. Conflict theory can be considered more valid because there is inequality, because every individual is in struggle to accumulate more and more wealth. So there is inequality in a form of have and have not class. So it means that Lenski Synthesis actually consider these both theories, but they give a key that surplus is the key to this, and we have to consider this perspective according to different types of society. If there is a hunting and gathering society, then functionalist view is more valid. But if there is a society where there is a concept of surplus, like the agriculture society, the feudalist society, the capitalist society, then the conflict theory is more valid for this. Okay, then the last one is the symbolic interactionism view of social stratification. How social stratification help in our symbolic interactionism, like how it helps us in our daily life, day-to-day interaction. It actually guides us in our daily life. And how do it guide us? In most communities, people, they interact primarily with others about the same social standings, because it's something which they it is because they have been guided by this stratification. They know the people of the other individuals of their own stratum, so they tend to have more and more interactions with them. Even they get married within their stratum, they have more gatherings. The friend, the peer circle is all according to the individual own social standings. And second thing is the people tend to live with others like themselves. And wealthy men, they might move away to getting close to others who they think are homeless. Means that wealthy men, they will try to get away from those people who are homeless, because they both are the contrasting social stratum. So it means that the symbolic interactionism helps us to guide that in what kind of people we have to do interaction, what is our social standing in our society, and what are the other social standing in our society with whom we are interacting. So it will help us to guide our interactions in our everyday life. Okay, at the last, there is a table in which I have summarized the structure functional theory, the conflict theory, the symbolic interactionist theory. We will discuss it, and this is the conclusion which I have drawn. First is that what is the level of analysis? Structure functionalist theory say that it is the macro level analysis. The structure functional theory is a kind of macro level analysis because it views society as a whole. As we discussed, functionalists say that stratification is something which benefits our society as a whole, and it focuses on how and why patterns of inequality exist. It believes that it exists because we have to draw more talented people from the less important works, and it exists because we have the most important jobs and the least important jobs in our society. Then the social conflict theory, which is also the macro level analysis, focus on how and why patterns of inequality exist. That how and why it exists because there is a kind of unequal distribution of resources, which the Max Weber, the Karl Marx discussed, that we have the unequal distribution of wealth, power, and prestige. And also we need power in our society in a form of political organization. Then symbolic interactionist theory, which is the micro level analysis, because it gives analysis to help us understand our social interaction, that what is our social standing and what kind of people we have to interact in our everyday life, which are more similar to our social stratum. Then how they will define it? What is social stratification? According to structure functional theory, social stratification is a system of unequal rewards that benefits society as a whole. But what conflicts say that it is a division of society resources that benefits some people and harm others. It benefits some people because those people who have more power, who have more wealth, they tend to accumulate more and more, and this unequal distribution, it left the majority of population in a miserable condition because they lack the access to resources. And the symbolic interactionism say that stratification is a factor that guides people's interaction in everyday life. Now the third thing is that what is the reason for our social position? According to functionalists, it reflects personal talent and ability in a competitive economy. That how much individual is talented to compete with others, it leads to their placement in a society. And the second, social conflicts say that So our social position actually reflect the way society divide resources. If society divide resources evenly, it will lead to a different kind of social position. It will lead to the equal distribution of resources. But if the resources they are divided unevenly, so of course they will have two classes that are in the form of the bourgeoisie and the proletarian class, where there will be a huge inequality and the distribution of resources. And a symbolic interactionists say that the product we consume, it all say about our social position. And even they use the term which we call the conspicuous consumption, which means that it refers to buying and using the product because of the statement they make about the social position. We use cars, we use the branded clothes just because of the label which has been attached to these ordinary things by the society. So all the product which you consume, what it say about our social position, our social standing in society. Are unequal rewards fair? According to functionalists, yes, it is fair because it is something morally justified, it is something a need of our society. But social conflicts say that no, it is not something fair because it is leading to the conflict in our society. It leads to the inequality. And what the interactionists say that it may be fair or may not be fair, because symbolic interactionist theory, it give more importance to the subjective meaning. It depends on a circumstances or the context of society in which the stratification exists. So this was all about the social stratification and its major theories. Okay, so this was the end of our lecture. Thank you so much for watching. Leave your questions in the comment section below and like, share and subscribe our channel for latest lectures. Thank you.